Taylor Swift got married on Friday night. It should have been her night and Travis Kelce's night and nobody else's. It lasted about 10 minutes before Donald Trump found a way to make it about him. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about a president who cannot go 24 hours without being the main character, even on somebody else's wedding day. We're going to walk through exactly what happened, why it backfired instantly, and what it tells you about a pattern this man has followed his entire public life. There's a lot to get through, so grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. Let's start with the day itself. On Friday, July 3rd, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got married at Madison Square Garden in New York City in front of roughly 1,000 guests. It capped off a 3-year public relationship that started when Kelce, only half joking, complained on his own podcast that he didn't get to meet Swift after attending one of her Eras Tour shows in Kansas City. He'd made her a friendship bracelet with his phone number on it and never got the chance to hand it over. A little over a year later, they were dating. Now they're married. The ceremony itself was officiated by their friend, comedian Adam Sandler. There was no traditional wedding party. Instead, Swift's brother Austin served as her man of honor, and Kelce's brother, retired NFL offensive lineman Jason Kelce, stood in as his best man. The bride wore a custom Christian Dior haute couture gown, and reports say the couple made a $26 million donation to 20 different national charities to mark the occasion. Guests spotted arriving included Hugh Grant, Jason Sudeikis, Ethan Hawke, NFL wide receiver Cooper Kupp, sports broadcaster Joe Buck, and director Steven Spielberg. Security was tight enough that guests reportedly signed non-disclosure agreements and phones were banned inside the venue, so almost nothing leaked in real time. Just after 8 p.m., the digital marquees outside Madison Square Garden, the same screens that usually advertise concerts and Knicks games, lit up in pink and purple with the words, "Just and T married." A few blocks away, the Empire State Building lit up in blue in their honor, a nod to the old wedding rhyme about something borrowed and something blue. By every account from people who attended or covered it, this was a genuinely sweet, hard-won private moment for two people who've spent 3 years of their relationship playing out in public, under a security spotlight most couples never have to deal with. And that's exactly the moment Donald Trump could not leave alone. 10 minutes. That's how long it took. 10 minutes after those pink signs lit up outside Madison Square Garden, the official White House account posted its own version of the exact same billboard graphic, except instead of "Just and T married," it read, "Trump is your president," captioned, "It's happened," with 3 exclamation points, like it was breaking news on the same level as the wedding itself. Sit with that for a second. This isn't a random meme account. This is the official White House. Staff paid with your tax dollars, using the seal of the executive branch, sat and watched a celebrity wedding unfold in real time on a Friday night, specifically so they could hijack the graphic within minutes of it going up. Somewhere in the West Wing, someone's job on Friday night was reportedly refreshing Madison Square Garden's exterior screens, waiting for the signs to change. And it did not land the way they clearly hoped. Almost immediately, people online started making their own versions of the same billboard template, and it turned into a pile-on. One widely shared edit swapped the caption for a reference to the Epstein files. Another simply read that Trump is a convicted felon. A third pointed out rising prices under his administration. Someone else just asked bluntly why Madison Square Garden would even let this happen, even though the garden itself had nothing to do with the White House's post. The government handed millions of people online a blank meme template on a silver platter, and the internet used it as a mirror instead. Here's the part that makes it even stranger. This wasn't even a one-off impulsive post. The night before the wedding, the White House had already put out a separate graphic titled "America's Eras Tour," styling Trump like the headliner of a Taylor Swift concert poster, using the exact color-blocked artwork style from her actual Eras Tour, and even echoing one of her own lyrics in the caption. 2 nights in a row, the official communications arm of the United States government built content specifically around a pop star's career and her personal milestones, unprompted, because nobody asked them to. So why does Taylor Swift live rent-free in this man's head like this? It's worth actually walking through the history because it's longer than people remember. Back in 2024, after Swift endorsed Kamala Harris following a presidential debate, Trump responded on his social media platform with a blunt three-word post: "I hate Taylor Swift." In 2025, when her Eras Tour numbers stayed enormous despite his attacks, he took another swing, posting something to the effect of, "Now that he said he hates her, has anyone noticed she's no longer hot?" When her engagement to Kelce was announced last August, he softened, telling reporters at a cabinet meeting that he wished them a lot of luck, though he also, notably, predicted the relationship wouldn't last. It did. And now, on the night it became permanent, he still couldn't resist getting one more dig in. Part of this is personal ego, but there's a political calculation buried in it too. Swift has an enormous, largely young, largely female audience in swing states that Trump needs to win over for the midterms, and going after her too hard risks reminding exactly those voters why they don't like him. That's likely why his posts about her tend to swing between grudging compliments about her looks and outright hostility about her politics. He clearly wants her approval and resents that he doesn't have it. Now, here's the thing. The wedding jealousy didn't happen in a vacuum. It landed in the middle of a weekend Trump had already spent building up as his own personal spotlight, the 250th anniversary of American independence. On that same Friday, before the wedding news had even broken, Trump flew to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota for a speech and a fireworks show, the first at the memorial in 6 years. It was also his first official trip aboard the new Air Force One, the retrofitted $400 million Boeing 747 that was gifted to the United States by the government of Qatar and has drawn sharp bipartisan criticism over its cost and the ethics of accepting it. That plane did flyovers of the monument not once but twice before he landed, essentially turning a national park commemoration into an unveiling event for his new jet. In the speech itself, Trump veered away from celebrating American history and into a warning that communism poses, in his words, a greater threat to the country than World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, or September 11th combined. That's a striking claim to make standing in front of a monument to 4 presidents at an event that organizers had originally billed as unifying and bipartisan. He also used the moment to push Congress to pass a piece of legislation he's been demanding, telling the crowd that Republicans could only lose the upcoming midterms if they were, in his words, foolish enough to let that happen. Ahead of the speech, he'd also posted an AI-generated video imagining his own face carved into Mount Rushmore, right next to Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt, complete with a voiceover promising he'd be the greatest president for many, many years to come. The White House press office backed him up publicly, saying there'd be no better addition to the memorial than him. Meanwhile, back in Washington, D.C., the actual centerpiece anniversary festivities were struggling. Dangerous, record-setting heat forced organizers to temporarily shut down the Great American State Fair on the National Mall. Philadelphia canceled its own Independence Day parade entirely, and by the next night, temperatures in the capital were pushing past 100 degrees as Trump prepared for a second speech near the Washington Monument that he'd promised in advance would be, quote, the most spectacular rally of them all. And then, on top of the wedding and the monument tour, there's a third moment from that same week that might be the most quietly revealing of all of them. A few days before the wedding, Trump appeared on a children's literacy podcast hosted by Second Lady Usha Vance called Story Time with the Second Lady, where guests read picture books to promote reading for kids. He read one called President's Play, a book from the White House Historical Association showing former presidents relaxing and playing sports at the White House. True to form, he couldn't just read it straight. He riffed constantly, joking about needing to watch his weight so he wouldn't surpass William Howard Taft as the heaviest president, and needling Barack Obama's basketball skills along the way. Near the end of the episode, Vance asked him a simple, gentle question. With everything going on, does he still find time to read for fun these days? His answer became the moment everybody clipped and shared. He said he mostly reads newspapers, and specifically he reads stories about himself. There's no real evidence Vance meant the question as a trap. The interview was friendly, pre-recorded weeks earlier in the Oval Office, on a podcast literally designed to encourage children to read. But the answer landed as an accidental self-own anyway, because it so perfectly confirms something a lot of people already believed about him, that even a bedtime story podcast for kids becomes somehow an occasion to talk about himself. It's also worth mentioning what happens next for the two people actually at the center of all this, because their lives keep moving regardless of what the White House posts. Kelce re-signed with the Kansas City Chiefs back in March after flirting with retirement, and his current contract is reportedly structured so he could walk away cleanly after this season, meaning this wedding might have happened right before what turns out to be his final year in the NFL. The Chiefs, for what it's worth, are rebuilding around him this year, bringing back Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator and adding pieces on offense, while quarterback Patrick Mahomes works his way back from a torn ACL and LCL, targeting a Week 1 return. None of that has anything to do with Donald Trump. It's just a reminder that for Swift and Kelce, the wedding was one chapter in an ordinary, full life, a life the White House decided needed a caption about the president anyway. It's also worth putting this specific incident inside the much longer list of times Trump has inserted himself into moments that were never about him in the first place. Award shows, sports championships, funerals, natural disasters. There's a recurring instinct to redirect the cameras. During his first term, he reportedly wanted updates on ratings during his own briefings, treating national crises partly as television events with a scoreboard attached. He's weighed in uninvited on Super Bowl halftime shows, Grammy performances, and other celebrities' personal announcements for years, usually when the person involved is someone he perceives as either a threat or a rival for public attention. Taylor Swift, at this point, checks both boxes for him better than almost anyone else alive. She draws bigger, more devoted crowds than he does, and she's shown no interest in pretending otherwise. That's really the through line here. It's not really about politics, and it's not really about her personally. It's about a man who appears to measure his own worth by whether he's the biggest story in the room, and who treats anyone else's big moment, a wedding, a tour, an engagement, as an implicit threat to that position. A $400 million jet flown in circles over a mountain, an AI video carving his own face into granite, a hijacked wedding billboard, a punchline on a kid's podcast. Different rooms, same instinct. So put all of it side by side. A White House account hijacking a wedding announcement within 10 minutes of it happening. A $400 million jet flown twice over a national monument before its owner even landed to give a speech about himself. An AI-generated video of his own face carved into granite next to 4 of the most consequential presidents in American history, and a joke on a literal children's reading podcast that reveals, in his own words, what he actually reads for pleasure. This isn't a new personality trait that showed up this week. It's a pattern that goes back decades. When he first ran for president in 2016, he told voters, "Nobody knows the system better than me. I alone can fix it." As if an entire federal government, 3 branches deep, could be reduced to one man's personal talent. 10 years and 1 more term later, the instinct hasn't moved an inch. If there's a spotlight anywhere nearby, a wedding, a mountain, a bedtime story for children, he needs to be standing directly inside it. And here's the part that should actually bother people regardless of who they voted for, separate from any of the celebrity drama. This is what official taxpayer-funded government accounts are apparently being used for now. Not emergency alerts, not public safety information, not policy explainers. A rapid response meme team standing by on a Friday night to make sure the President of the United States gets a mention in the same news cycle as someone else's wedding. Whatever you think about Taylor Swift or Trump or celebrity culture in general, that's a strange use of the communications apparatus of the executive branch of the United States government. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got one night that was supposed to belong only to them after 3 years of building a relationship in front of cameras that were never really theirs to control. It took the official White House account 10 minutes to make it about someone else instead. Not a rival campaign, not a foreign government, the White House. On a Friday night, over a wedding billboard. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. Tell me in the comments which moment from this week you think was the most telling. The wedding hijack, the jet flyovers, the AI mountain video, or the bedtime story confession. Drop a like if you're already tired of this being the pattern every single week, and I'll see you in the next one.